Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County. So pleased to have in the studio with us today Dr. Christina Connett Brophy. She is the president and CEO of the Maritime Museum of San Diego. How you doing, Christina?
I am doing very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're honored to have you, joined by my co-host in her 3rd year. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc., Kristen Fogel. How's it feel to be back in the co-host seat?
It's good, I was averaging like once a month there,
Oh, you're doing more than that.
At the start, yeah, I was weekly, but I think the last year it was once a month, and I haven't been here in 2 months, so it feels lonely. It feels bad. I don't like it.
I hope you're going to correct that.
I am going to correct it. Absolutely.
Very good.
I'm going to start right now. Yeah, let's talk about the mission of the organization.
Absolutely. So one of the things that the museum focuses on predominantly is a relationship to the Pacific Ocean and our maritime heritage out of San Diego.
How'd you get involved in that? You've been, a scientist. You were an environmental person. I think a major in Northwestern, correct?
Correct. But I had a very odd trajectory.
Okay.
So in the 70s, my parents started the research vessel Geronimo program out of Newport, Rhode Island, which is owned by St. George's School, which is a prep school in Newport. And my father was an English teacher there at the time, former Navy officer, and he said, really want to start a maritime program. So this boat was donated. My parents started a semester at sea program and started taking kids down all around the Caribbean, mostly to tag sharks for the National Fishery Service and turtles for the University of Florida. Yeah. So my brother and I lived in the forecastle, which is the bow of the boat with little pipe burrs that folded up and down, starting when I was about 4 years old, and lived on a boat with a bunch of high school kids and our parents, mostly around the Caribbean and all over the Atlantic. All of our toys were very small, and we did school out of a box for a bunch of years, but we were always based in Rhode Island, but really think of the Bahamas as our home.
Wow. So how was that as an experience?
It's awesome. The worst thing is that it doesn't prepare you for a life where things are the same every day. So I think my brother and I both led fairly peripatetic lives, and I've lived all over the world with America's Cup, with my ex-husband, and just currently have a beautiful sailboat that's still on the East Coast with my husband, Gary. And but just a real love of the ocean, real love of ocean conservation. We did a lot of marine preservation as kids, and really had a long trajectory relationship with all these different countries around the Caribbean that we came into contact with. These were the days of Baby Doc and Power, and we had the opportunity to go to Cuba in the 80s and spent a lot of time finding really interesting, diverse people in that area of the world. And I became fascinated with visual culture and decided the sea would be there for me again when I was ready for it, and ended up studying art history in the middle of the country in Chicago. Went on to get a master's and PhD in art history. But then coming into maritime museums, it brings all worlds together. Yeah. So really was able to, when I first came into the New Bedford Whaling Museum to look at whale conservation with the top biologists in the world at WHOI, at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and then worked with contemporary artists and the community. And it was just an amazing way to kind of bring all these pieces of my life together. No,
that's great. And of course, anyone who's spent any time in San Diego know that the Maritime Museum of San Diego is absolutely iconic. Thank you, Ray Ashley, for many, many decades of great work. Certainly, you're right down in the harbor, right by the Berkeley, of course, and the Star of India and so forth. On this aspect of it, you've been doing this for a year now, right?
Yes.
You enjoying it? What do you think of San Diego? What do you think about San Diego as they focus on what the mission is of the Maritime Museum?
Well, I think it's very important for the Maritime Museum to increase its role in the city. I think a lot of port cities eventually, once they sort of forget they're really port cities, they kind of turn their back to the port and focus on other opportunities farther inland. But I'm on the board of the International Congress of Maritime Museums, which is a group of about 250 members around the world. And there are about 12 people on the board. And it's a problem that all maritime museums really face is, their relevance in the current day and kind of what port cities mean. There's a reason why people get together in New York City. Why is New York City such a big city? Well, it's one of the best ports in the world. San Diego, the same thing. I mean, it's an incredible port, has an incredible history. And so we're working really hard to sort of get people to understand their own relationship with the sea.
So obviously, before we toss it over to Kristen for some questions, you guys have to work shoulder to shoulder with the Port of San Diego. There's no question about that. And, they have, big footprint really down from the border, up the coastline and so forth. I think there's 5 cities involved, if I'm not mistaken, with the port in this area. How has that been? How's it working with our port?
I have to say that I'll get to this, but when I was at Mystic Seaport Museum and even in New Bedford, I worked a lot on why the past is relevant to the future. And I got very interested in blue technology and blue economy. One of the reasons I came here was because of the great work that the Port Authority is doing in San Diego. And it was really compelling to me having founded the Connecticut Blue Economy Coalition and looking at the incredible progress that San Diego has made because of the port's efforts. So it really was actually one of the biggest draws. They are my landlords. And one of the things that I'm interested in partnering more with them on, as I have done with the Navy and with a lot of other major organizations, is being that third-party storyteller. We are the storytellers. That's why we're museums. Otherwise, we'd just be a big, giant warehouse. And we do we can bring light to all the incredible things that are happening around San Diego that are looking towards ocean conservation, towards maritime industries growth, towards a sustainable future in industry.
Yeah. Say more about blue technology and why it's important.
Well, having grown up on the ocean and seeing, there is this thing called baseline normal. And, I'm in my 50s and my baseline normal is very different than my kids' baseline normal, kind of what seems sort of normal to me.
Yes.
So I did a show with a fabulous artist named Alexis Rockman when I was at Mystic Seaport Museum. And we commissioned this work, incredible series called Oceanus. And he talked about maritime industry's impact on the oceans over time. Incredible, but also sad when you think about the themes of that show. And I have 2 kids in their 20s, and I was worried about climate despair. And I started thinking about, okay, these are the realities, but what are all the really smart people in the world doing about it? So I went to the United Nations and I listened to what everyone was talking about. This was the UN Oceans Conference in Lisbon. And it was all the things that was just right on our doorstep on every port city of kelp farming, aquaculture, development in renewable energies, all the different things that we all see around our ports at various degrees. And so that's where I got really interested in this is maritime industry as well. So when we're looking at the trajectory of naval architecture, the trajectory of the innovations around how to move a boat through water efficiently, there are new ways of doing that don't impact the oceans in the same way. And there's a lot of data collecting through NOAA and Rick Spinrad and all these incredible leaders that really were inspiring to me to rethink what maritime really means. So when I go talk to a 12-year-old kid and they say, "Oh, if I want to be a mariner, I have to grow a beard and get a lobster boat." Sure,
you're like true and yes, yeah,
true and you can also be in robotics. You could be a chef, you can be an artist, you can be a professor, you can do all these other things that don't impact the oceans in the same way.
Yeah. Remind me offline to talk to you about
career pathways.
Yes, thank you very much.
I was like, you hit on his sweet spot.
Yeah, my sweet spot over there.
Oh dear.
Kristen could read my mind, which is the detriment to her because as she does, her IQ.
There's some weird stuff in there. Yeah,
her IQ drops exponentially. We're chatting with Dr. Christina Connett Brophy. She is the president and CEO of the Maritime Museum of San Diego. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. You're in our 20th year. Nation's longest running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things, whether it's food insecurity, financial literacy, the art, homelessness, and so forth. On this, I think the work that, you're doing and what has been done before, with the Maritime Museum, so critical, the connectivity to so many different entities. You brought up the Navy and so forth. We do a military show as well, and we're pretty well connected to what's going on in that area. And the folks that I've talked to, whether they're running, Naval Base San Diego or they're doing Point Loma, are very conscientious of the environment and conservation. And if you don't know that, you think that they could care less. That is the exact opposite, is it not?
The Navy is incredibly engaged in ocean conservation. From my experience, I worked a lot with NUIC back in Newport, the Naval Underwater Warfare Center, and they were investing more. The Navy in general invests more in marine mammal conservation than any other organization in the world. So they get a lot of bad reputation for things that were happening around beaked whales, for example. But the reality of it, from my experience with them, is that they're doing everything they can to prevent that. So certainly there's a balance that has to be struck. But also the Navy, particularly in San Diego and around the East Coast, are looking at dual purpose use technology and blue technology. So when there's something that can be developed with naval funds, but then have a commercial application or vice versa, they do a lot of investment in blue technology and renewable energies and all kinds of innovations that really help all of us, not just the military. And that's another story to be told around that.
Yeah, well, and we do tell that story on our military show and let them know they're very proud of the fact that they work on this, whether it's with sound echolocation and the animals. I'm pretending I know what I talk about.
You sounded very convincing.
Well, actually, because I've actually talked about this stuff before, so, and we know how critical it is. And anyone who's been down to the area, the Maritime Museum is involved in, whether it's the Midway or it's the Star of India or it's the Berkeley or go in between, and everything else that it focuses on is so critical and very mindful of how we can protect that area. Do you spend much time down there? Your husband works for a science museum.
Well, he works at the fleet, yes. But I was going to say, let's say hypothetically there's someone who spent 2 decades in San Diego and has never been to the Maritime Museum. What can they kind of expect?
Well, it is interesting you asked that, and interesting that you say that, because I hear that quite a lot. And that's one of the challenges I've seen since I've been here over the last year, that to me, my brother actually got married on that boat 30 years ago during the America's Cup. And that was probably the only time I ever went there when I lived here before. But a lot of people say, oh, there's a Maritime Museum. Where is it? And I said, oh, the Star of India. Oh, the Star of India. Oh, yeah. I went there once when I was in 4th grade, and there's a museum there. And I also get the question, are you guys part of the Midway? And I love Terry Craft. We love the Midway. They're amazing partners, but no, we're not part of the Midway. So we have a lot of awareness to look at. And so one of those is finding ways for people to connect to the museum through the stories that are told on our vessels. So we have the whole museum floats. It's an amazing experience. So people who are a little bit scared of being on the sea, they've never been on the water before, once you step foot on our museum, it's all floating. So you're technically at sea, you're just tethered to the docks. It's very safe.
Yeah.
So some of the things you can expect are things like going around on some of the vessels that are tethered, like the Star of India. Berkeley have incredible exhibitions on those vessels, but also there are opportunities to go out on the water. So we have the pilot boat that goes out every day, which is the oldest running pilot boat in the country. And a pilot boat is one that guides a bigger boat into the harbor. You see them out all the time. We also have the Swift boat, which is the only operational Vietnam-era Swift boat running in the world. We've firmly established that now, to actually go out on the weekends on that vessel with Vietnam vets who are the coolest guys in the world. They're the sweetest. They have the best stories. Amazing experience to go out on that boat. And then we do have several tall ships that go out on the weekends as well, and they're available for charters. We do a lot of events on the boats, and we'll be ramping up our public programs this year. So there'll be a lot of things to experience.
Come back from break, Christina. Let's talk about how you folks are absolutely laser beamed on education, whether it's in the K-12 space or TK or above and beyond as well. Want to talk more about the careers and pathways as Kristen was bringing up. And we always save time in the second half of the interview. What can our listeners do to support your efforts? Okay. Volunteering? Is it donating? Is it whatever they want to do in that aspect of it? When we return with Christina Brophy, she is the I don't want to say new. You've been there for a year. The president and CEO of the Maritime Museum of San Diego. And we will chat more about that aspect when we return after this short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Honored to have in the studio with us today Christina Brophy. She's the president and CEO of the Maritime Museum of San Diego, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She's executive director of San Diego Writers Inc. Kristen.
Yeah. So I run a writing organization. We've talked about story in this interview several times. So tell us a story that makes you proud of the organization.
Well, there are a couple that I can refer to from this year very briefly. In November, I sailed down from San Francisco on the Statsraad Lemkuhl, which is a Norwegian tall ship. And I have to say, like, coming in after 4 or 5 days at sea with this incredible international group on one of the most beautiful tall ships I've ever seen, we come in like the dense fog around Point Loma. I couldn't even see Point Loma. You couldn't see anything. And we realized we had a bunch of boats from our museum coming out to meet us, to welcome us into the bay. And it was such dense fog that the Californian tall ship just went right past us and didn't see us.
My goodness.
I was calling them on the phone, like, turn around. So they came back in, and but it was amazing. The Swift boat, the pilot boat, and the Californian all welcomed us.
Wow.
We sang shanties to them. The Californian fired cannons at us. It was just really cool. And everybody on the boat said that's the best welcome we've had. And it was just great. All the volunteers and some supporters were out there to cheer us in. And that was really magical. And then the other, really, we had some Blue Tech demo days in November, and we invited a lot of entrepreneurs from the region, from UCSD, from IEEE, from all different organizations to come and test out their robotics on our campus. And we invited the Salvation Army Youth Corps to come, and there about 20 kids showed up. And this little girl was probably 10, and a bunch of other kids were standing around. I said, do you guys like robotics? Like, do you like what you're checking out today? And she's like, I do now. And I was like, that was so cool. That's exactly what we're trying to do, is get kids to say, I can see myself in this space. And that was really overwhelming. It was an amazing day.
Yeah, those connections when you're a kid can be, life-changing.
Yeah,
want
to focus again on, what you do in the education aspect of it. We talked about kids can spend the night and all that business, and certainly the curriculum that you folks have wide, and, whether it's TK, whether it's, high school, whether it's community college or four-year school is phenomenal. And so the beauty of it, you're a living textbook, basically, and we all know that aspect of it. Talk about your engagement with the schools.
Yeah, so the school programs are particularly 4th and 5th grade. That's when we really do a lot of our overnights on the Star of India. So it's amazing how many people I meet who are adults who say that they slept on the Star when they were a kid, and now their kids are sleeping on the Star. It's a really magical experience for, again, like a totally safe, tethered to the dock, but the kids stand watch. They sleep down below on the boat. They talk about navigation and the stars. There's a lot of teamwork and collaboration in that. And our team is unbelievably amazing. I mean, they're just passionate and they tell great stories and they're engaging with the kids. So that's just, we have some really iconic legacy programs. We also do an oceanographic badge program. We're working now with USD to do some heavy metals and remediation around our boats. And so those students are coming in who are now influencing our younger students and inspiring them. We're working with UCSD Scripps on a few different things. So we have and TMA Blue Tack. So we're looking at different ways to sort of connect kids to different pathways for themselves to consider moving forward. So like Ocean Discovery Institute came by and we're going to be working on a partnership with them. So we're really trying to think about ways that we can leverage our actual site to help support other education programs. We're also doing, so keep your eyes peeled, a co-beneficiary fundraising event with Say San Diego in the early summer, late spring, which I think is going to be super fun. So trying to get some of these kids from different parts of the city to actually come on the water and get to know us, get the teachers to know us and think about new ways to collaborate and expand our education program.
Well, you brought up something that we talk about all the time. Kristen's heard me say it. She said it as well. You know, the amount of kids that have never been on the ocean and they live in San Diego, or have never been to a pottery game, never been on the mountain, never been X, Y, and Z, is a big number. And it stuns people when we say that, but it's true. And, you know, we had somebody on recently that was involved with some type of surfing thing or whatever, I can't remember. And they take a group of kids that live in San Diego County that have never been to the beach. Yeah. And the same thing down to your area, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I grew up this weird childhood that I absolutely loved, and it gave me a love of the oceans. Most people don't get to grow up that way. And so there are a shocking number of kids who have never been down to the bay. When I used to work in Providence, there were kids right across the highway who'd never seen the bay. And and in New Bedford and in Mystic, Connecticut, where I was living, in Groton, there are a lot of kids who'd never been on the water. And I really want to do as much as we can to help fix that here and get kids on the water, just to understand why it matters in their own heritage, in their own lives. You know, where are they finding connection to that relationship with the sea, and to take some of the fear of it away. So you're sitting on the Berkeley and it kind of moves a tiny bit when a big Navy vessel goes by, not a lot, but a little bit. And it's like, wow, you can feel that, you know, but it's safe, and they kind of sort of wean them into it. It's really great.
Yeah. So we're chatting with Christina Brophy. She is the president and CEO of Maritime Museum of San Diego. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 60 years of doing great things in the community, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Riders, Inc. So what can we do for you? You know, certainly raising funds, the money doesn't grow on trees, really important to continue the great work you're doing, volunteering. And I know I saw you're looking at enhancing the board and maybe diversifying the board. Talk about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a new community advisory group, which is terrific, who's really helping us to guide us on diversifying our storytelling as well as our connections with the community. They're going to be a big driving force in sort of revamping our exhibitions. Many of them are quite old and really could use some updating, and also thinking about including some more stories that we haven't been telling historically. So that's been very exciting. We have a new development committee with some rock star people on it that we're hoping to bring on the board. We've done brought in some really terrific board members actually over the last year. But we're looking at a new major capital project called the Gateway Project, which we're hoping to start promoting shortly. We're working out some designs and permitting on that. But in that building, we're hoping to really include kind of the people of the port story with our community advisory group and others, to have people come in and say, okay, my story is immigration. My story is fishing. My story is whatever it is. And then they can kind of pick the vessel that they really connect with to kind of go and learn more. So there are a lot of things that we're trying to do to kind of get into that space and that engagement with the community. So we're certainly going to be looking for some capital campaign help, but on a much, immediate level, become a member. I mean, we have a fabulous new newsletter. My new fabulous director of development, Kate O'Neill, is going to be putting that out every month. So if you become a member, you just learn what's going on and see about the new programs and the new energy around the place. And then certainly volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers. They're such a cool group of people. They do 90% of the work at this museum. They are just treasures, all of them. And we're always looking to expand that program. But it's a really fun group of people. You show up and muster on a Sunday with all the guys and girls and climb the rigging and paint things and just collaborate on different efforts around the museum. It's a terrific program.
Drew said he'd like to climb and paint things.
I do. I would not do it effectively, but I'd like to do it. So, I think this will be not the last time. We love to shine a light on our iconic and important organizations and businesses, and the Maritime Museum of San Diego is one of them. So would like to set up something with you at minimum coming in once a quarter.
I would love that.
And then you can look at the strategy and say, in this quarter, boy, we should highlight this, and then the next quarter we'll do X. So be giving some thought to that. Consider that a done deal. What you guys do is just way, way too important to only shine a light on it once. We're going to do it many times.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've been chatting with Dr. Christina Connett Brophy. She's the president and CEO of the Maritime Museum of San Diego. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 years of doing phenomenal things in San Diego County. Kristen, as always, thank you for joining me. And I know I will see you down there doing some painting and climbing up rigging.
We'll do it together. We'll make a life of it.
Listen, we'd love to do it. We always threaten to do this and wind up not doing it. But
sometimes we do. Sometimes we do some.
I stand corrected. Sometimes we do that. Yeah. Anyway, Christina, wishing you nothing but great luck moving forward. And it's not luck. You guys spend a lot of time thinking about these things and looking forward to your return appearance.
Thank you very much.
You bet. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.